This podcast was created on the lands of the Ngunnawal people, the Wurundjeri people, and Ngāti Pawa. We acknowledge the contributions of Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, and Maori people to making rugby league the greatest game of all.
You're listening to NRL Hellmouth, the podcast where we open up a portal to the rugby league realm to see what horrors and delights we can unearth. It's your friend Simon here. While the weather might be getting cooler, the flames of Hellmouth just keep heating up. And I'm joined as always by my two favourite pointy-tailed league demons, James and Daniel. How are you guys?
Beanies and bucket hats. I'm wonderful. I'm putting on a brave face, and it's lovely to be here. James, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Did you guys invite me along today because you're firing me for not having a breakout viral video hit?
Legally, we have to put you on a performance improvement plan before we can actually sack you under the Fair Work Act. So,
that's good.
Maybe, Dan, we might have to talk off air, but the fact that James is technically not an Australian worker because he lives in New Zealand might give us a little wiggle room. But anyway.
No. Anyway, what I want to say is that I think it's notable that the Hunt for Red V in October did so incredibly poorly. Like, it couldn't have done worse than it did in many ways compared to some of the other ones. And what balances that up is that me saying that Brian To'o is going to have a big toilet problem did so well. Yeah. So it's just good to understand that it's as simple as saying Brian To'o one day will shit his pants, and that's what the people want to hear, as opposed to a wonderfully conceived, high-concept work of art like the Hunt for Red V in October. Not too late to look, listeners, online and find the exciting trailer to the thrilling concept.
Well, we're always working on our craft. Coming up later in the show, Dan's going to take us back into history with the story of the game's first HIA. But a lot to get through before then, so let's open it up and raise some hell.
There's the kickoff. Let the party begin.
Like, I undeservedly apologise to everyone for my actions.
I didn't intend to disrespect anybody, and I definitely didn't do it on the car.
Well, I've been watching the Seagulls, and not one of them is eating.
This is a horror movie. Rugby league. What else can this grand final provide?
Does it get stacked live on television?
Stop it, it's starting to hurt.
So the points maxing continued last weekend, with an average of 58 points being scored each game and a few big margins. James, last week you proposed that fans just give up once their team gets 20 points behind. Did you follow through on that when the Storm fell behind?
Well, first of all, I didn't expect that I would have to be doing it in that game ever. And I also just want to make a special mention of our wonderful preview last week where we assured listeners that the Panthers would win.
That's right, yeah.
As analysts, I think we've got work to do. Yeah. But as ideas men, I think we're on track. So I did give up at 20. I was in touch with both of you when I did it. I simply turned the TV to another thing, and I did not bother with the last however long it was, 35 minutes, 20 minutes of the match. And I had a lovely evening contemplating things that weren't rugby league at the time.
Heavenly.
And I secretly saw that Dan continued to watch and continued to accept the spanking of his bottom. And I'm interested to know, Dan, how you felt after the game, because I felt totally fine.
Well, yeah, I think when you say you secretly saw, I think that was by way of looking at the torrent of distressed text messages that I was sending to both of you while I was in a dark place. And it was, I think it's one of those things. I've always been someone that's been probably overly proud of wanting to stay to the end. I had a tortured upbringing with a terrible AFL team as a boy, and I think that's always sort of, led me down the path of self-abuse, and this was no exception. So, yes, looking back, I would have loved to have lived a beautiful life during those 35 minutes and seen something different, but I just can't bring myself to do it.
I was actually thinking about you guys in the context of Buddhist philosophy over the last few days. I think I texted you a Buddhist quote on Saturday night, Dan, or something along the lines of pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. But the situation that you Storm fans find yourself in reminds me a lot of the story of Prince Siddhartha, because, of course, Buddha didn't start out as a spiritual leader. He used to be a prince in Nepal, and he lived a life of luxury for 29 years, protected behind the palace walls. Never unhappy. Then one day he snuck out and he saw as the legend goes, he saw an old person, a sick person and a dead person. And for the first time he realised that there was suffering in the world, and indeed it's a major part of life. So he, renounced his wealth and went on spiritual quests, meditate under the Bodhi tree, etc., etc. So I think that you guys have basically been Prince Siddhartha for the last 25 years, living the high life in your sheltered palace of consistent excellence. And now you're out in the real world to find it's a cruel and horrible place, which on a personal level I found it's fucking hilarious. But I do know it's a long road from here back to rugby league enlightenment. And I think, James, you're probably further along the path than Daniel, simply by detaching yourself from the suffering inherent in being a rugby league fan.
Well, why don't we continue to A/B test this, Dan, over the next couple of months as the Storm continue to lose and be pumped. And I will continue to give up at 20 and you continue to suck it up at 20 and we'll see where we get to. I wonder, Simon, if Prince Siddhartha ever had to put up with aggregate scores over 50 points per game in rugby league all those 100 years ago and how that might make him feel.
Yeah, well, that's right.
I think maybe some of those expressions were coined during, I think he was a Dragons fan, it was coined during the 11 straight. So times have changed and we have to move on.
But just while still on give up at 20, I think I'm certainly going to embrace it when my team falls behind by 20. But I think I'm also going to stop watching if the Raiders get ahead by 20, as they did in our game the other day against Souths, where they were 20 points ahead and then very nearly lost. Which was very stressful. Yeah. Very stressful experience. There's no joy to be found in your team almost giving you a massive lead. And even if they do prevail at the end, I would have been much better turning the TV off and doing something else and then check the score later and been happy not to have put myself through the ludicrous display.
Absolutely. On a stat front, the give up at 20 across the 5 games where that could have kicked in during the weekend could have saved fans over 2 hours of heartache.
There you go.
And I just wanted to point out that across the 48 games, this is one thing that we got right last week, which was that once your team goes 20 points down, statistically speaking, well, I think we put it pretty black and white and said there's no chance that you could come back, and the Raiders almost disproved that theory. But so far across 48 games, no team has come close. I think the biggest comeback victories have been against the Storm of 14 points, and I think we've had a couple in that ballpark in the 14 to 16, but nothing has eclipsed that at this stage. So the stats speak for themselves.
I actually did have an idea for a new feature for KO Sports. So if any of the pro-Russian oligarchs or authoritarian petrostate sovereign wealth fund investors that own that platform now are listening, be great if you can add a feature for those of us that pay our $8,000 or $9,000 a month for KO. Have a give up at 20 toggle in your user settings so that you can set your team and you can turn on the give up at 20 radio button. And then as soon as your team gets behind by 20, KO will shut down the stream and it will not let you restart it again.
For these people, or people that set certain apps to make sure they stand up every 15 minutes and stretch their legs.
It's like the screen time feature on your phone, and it's you need to stop doing this. It's bad for your health.
I think that's what I need because it's honestly willpower won't do it. Pride is in the way.
We'll get your neighbour to knock on the door. I'll send them a text. They can drag you out into the street.
They'll just hear me groaning through the door.
Yeah.
Oh no, not again, it's getting worse.
Oh no, he pulled his hands away. No.
Possible illegal penalty try and professional foul as the foul happens in the field of play.
There we go. That's how stupid the rule is.
I understand, but that's the rule as it stands.
It was interesting, Simon. You had the match that you were talking about, 36 Raiders, 34 Rabbitohs. The prior match that on Friday was 35-31, Broncos-Cowboys game. Those two types of high-scoring close games used to occur maybe once a month or so. And I've just noticed in this wonderful season that we've got now, it's happening maybe 2 times around, which is quite interesting. And I know that when you think about rugby league and how you would package it, you obviously think about tries, and that's the attraction. But I have found, and maybe it's just my old age, that games that are try, end up losing meaning to me. Yeah. And it often reminds me of what it was like when you first moved out of home and you could do whatever you want. Pleasure yourself the entire time.
In whatever way you choose.
Whatever way you choose. Buy Cocoa Pops and eat the Cocoa Pops whenever you wanted. And it's fine every now and again, but after about 2 weeks of eating Cocoa Pops every day for breakfast, they do lose the appeal. And certainly for me, that is what is starting to happen, particularly with the high-scoring games. Cannot remember a game this season that was something like 22-18 or 22-16.
Yeah, they've been
what
very
would have been
few.
Normally, or previously, I should say. Not normally. Previously, are considered a good solid game that you would go, that was a match of the round. And then we had this other perverse thing of the second place team playing the third place team this week, and I think the Knights got a couple of late tries, but it was out to 42-10 at some point as well.
Yeah,
and again, you always want to see your team win, i.e., eat Cocoa Pops for breakfast, but. Sometimes you appreciate more a bowl of porridge.
We'll go into this with This Week in Hell, but I would be interested to see some sort of analysis of form this year. Like, I think more than any other season, the ability to track a team's form has been completely out the window. There are teams that are looking incredible one week, and then the next week they're getting flogged by 40. And they're getting flogged by teams who, like the week before, got flogged themselves by 40. Triangulation is completely broken. I mean, normally it's a pretty flawed thing to think that just because Team A beat Team B, then Team B must be able to beat C if C beats A, or that sort of combination. But we're really in Coco Loco world right now.
Cocoa Pops world.
Thank you.
Cocoa Pops world. Because this is how rugby league should work. This is the top 4. Storm, Panthers, Roosters, Broncos, more or less. That should be the top 4 every season. Every second season, the Raiders make it to the top 4. The Broncos go out.
That's true. That is the comfortable way to do it.
5 to 8 will include the Seagulls, the Bulldogs, maybe the Rabbitohs, someone else, who cares? The Sharks. That is it. And then you have all the shit teams. That's what it needs to be. This is mad. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're right on the crazy score lines. Like, up until, recent events, I always felt that rugby league had the perfect amount of scoring for a sport. Because, I mean, obviously soccer's the most popular game in the world. And when somebody scores a goal, it's massive, right? Because, it's often changes the game if somebody scores a goal. But there's a lot of pissing around of not much happening in between. Whereas then you look at a sport like basketball where there's heaps of scoring and it's also not very exciting because each scoring play is essentially meaningless. But then if you have a 22-18 scoreline where you've maybe got, 6 to 8 scores in a game, well, that's over 80 minutes. That's sort of the perfect amount.
Yes, because it always gives a team that is trailing the opportunity to have 1 or 2 good things go their way and make up their deficit. Whereas now, like, the difference between 1 or 2 converted tries versus 4 is, it's happening all the time. So it really does change that equation.
Yeah. And, scoring tries is all great to see. But you know what I like even more? Teams defending against tries being scored, being stuck in their own red zone for, 3 or 4 repeat sets in a row and coming out on top. That's what,
Simon like grind. Simon like grind. Huh?
The foul play far outweighs the dickhead.
I'm a bit worried about the way that there is this rising tide of discontent among fans. There's definitely conversations that are happening among players, if you listen to a lot of player podcasts out there. And it seems to be that people are putting the blame on the engineers behind the game and the way it's implemented at the referee level. I think that the NRL needs to sort of wrestle back this narrative and start promoting the epidemic of naughty boys, because what's been lacking here is that we're sort of we're thinking that the refs are to blame because they're doing all this stuff. Well, the refs have got to start saying, all we're asking for here, guys, is in between tackles, just back up 10 metres and don't slow the play unnecessarily and stop messing about in the ruck. And then we can get back to enjoying the game because...
Do you know, Dan, you've cracked it. So when there's a breach of the 10 metres or whatever, instead of doing a 6 again, the ref just goes, hold up, just back a bit.
Oh, pauses it.
Yeah. Liam, back a bit, Liam. Next time, penalty. All right, mate, go. Done. Amazing. Well, that's just solved it. I think it's known as refereeing.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that, we're hearing little about the fact that because we're seeing a massive increase in 6 agains, at least an increase in penalties and infringements that are being issued, surely the NRL should be coming out and saying that these players are out of line. Like, this is the problem with the game.
Apportioning the blame to the players, not that it's an issue with the rules.
Because at the moment, I think I'll walk away from fantasy Volandis for a moment, but it does seem like the referees are sort of in this. There's a discourse that's occurring between players and referees, and it's not so much that we're seeing a black and white implementation of the rules. These are discretionary, context-based calls that are happening. We're seeing something that is causing confusion and frustration, and you can see why a lot of these teams that are going behind by a lot of points, the catalyst is, yes, it's the 6 agains, but it's also the fact that the players are starting to lose a handle on how to read the game. And, whether it's Storm or whether it's, take your pick of all the teams, there's so much ill discipline that is being delightfully called out by the commentary teams. But that's because they're just getting super frustrated because things I don't think are being called in the black and white way that perhaps they at least somewhat reliably could rely on in the past.
We've often said, Dan, on this show, for fans, if you don't like what you're seeing, simply storm the field, riot, have banners at games in order to assert that a certain type of game is required, and that is more towards the referees and NRL management. We've also offered up give up at 20, which is a silent protest, if you will, when games get out of hand. But I think what you're saying is that I agree with, that is, instead of putting pressure on the NRL, we just simply have to be saying to teams, maintain your discipline. Maintain your discipline. Keep a good 10. Keep a good 10. You're encouraging positive play, not punishing negative play.
And, I think it has to be led by the home crowds. They've got to be the ones that are picking up that responsibility on their own team. They're saying, get back your 10.
Yeah. Get back, Liam. Ref, he's off. Watch him, Liam. We're on to you.
So what about the champion of Australia, the champion of Australia, Peter Volandis? He's like President Trump.
So look, that's all the negative talk done. We try not to be too negative on this show, but you've got to remember that rugby league is facing an existential crisis.
Give up at 20 is a positive twist on a negative situation.
Exactly.
Do you think we expect it to be such a neg show?
I didn't expect them to fuck the game up when we started to have a podcast.
That's right. But anyway, look, bit of happy news this week, guys. Try-scoring record holder and all-round lovely guy Alex Johnston got engaged. AJ proposed to his partner, Taryn. They've been together for 11 and a half years and already have 3 children.
Oh, wow.
She said yes, obviously. And the world of rugby league was quick to congratulate them on their social media challenge. They even got a message of congratulations from your mates, the Wiggles, James.
Did the Tree of Wisdom say anything?
I don't think so. I think it was from the
I'm going to have
corporate
to leave
account.
the podcast now and go and have a look and see if the Tree of Wisdom said anything to him. Go ahead, guys. I'll be back soon.
So, look, that's lovely. But a little tidbit that came out in the reporting of this is that the couple met in at 2014 when AJ was in his rookie year at the Rabbitohs and Taryn was, wait for it, a cheerleader for the Sydney Roosters.
I'm back. You got me back. Keep going.
This is some real Montague and Capulet shit, isn't it?
It really is.
Two warring tribes a hatred built on 120 years of bitter rivalry, and these two managed to bridge that divide with love. What lessons do you think we can take from this?
What was happening between those teams 11 years ago? Was there a sort of like a softening at any point historically?
I think 2014 was when the Rabbitohs won their premiership, like the first one in 1,000 years, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So the Roosters wouldn't have been too happy with that.
Oh, gosh, but that's fabulous. I mean, have they been in the shadows for 11 years?
Maybe that's why they waited the 11.5 years to make it official, because maybe it's like, in certain religions where you have to go and get the father's approval. And AJ actually had to go and get Nick Politis' approval to marry one of his former cheerleaders.
No,
and
we have traditions.
Nick only let him do it once he became the greatest try scorer of all time. He's like, oh, all right, you've finally proven yourself worthy.
Classic Roosters move, guys, would be for them to get AJ in his last year and, get a cheeky little 5 tries, and then they can claim him
as
the greatest try scorer, the famous Rooster. Alex Johnston.
I did also wonder if this love story is also just a testament to what an adorable guy AJ is. Do you know he's really into his Pokemon cards?
No. That's lovely.
Yes, he is. He doesn't really like going out or drinking and any of that sort of traditional rugby league behaviour.
No.
He just likes staying in and ripping open some packs of cards hoping for a big score. And I saw he actually did a post on Instagram the other day called Rabbitoh Rips, where he was gifted a box of Pokemon cards in packets by a sponsor, and he handed them out to some of the boys, and they all just sat around and opened up the packs and went through looking for the glittery ones.
Great.
It was lovely stuff.
That's he just keeps getting better and better.
He does. He does.
What a guy. In the air! In the air! In the air! Goal!
While we're on the crossover of rugby league and popular culture, you might recall a few weeks ago we covered Fox League's promotional partnership with the hardcore band Turnstile and suggested that perhaps Peter V'landys should fuck off Las Vegas and instead try to infiltrate the American market via the punk rock scene. One group that has heard us and taken up that call are The Chats, the very popular Sunshine Coast-based punk band famous for songs like Smoko and Pub Feed. Great stuff.
Yep.
The Chats played at Coachella last weekend, and their set had a real State of Origin flavour. This is true. They decorated their amps with a classic 4X Maroons banner, and they used the big screen behind them to flash up an image of Gordon Tallis's famous ragdoll tackle on Brett Hodgson during the 2002 series. That's the one where Gordy grabs him by the scruff of the jersey and pulls him basically 15 metres over the sidelines.
Yeah. And Hodgson sort of just is, complicit almost by the end.
Right.
He's like, oh, well, that's my life.
So that would have been a fantastic moment for Maroons fans to see, and no doubt extremely confusing for everyone in the mosh pit at Coachella. What do you think? Is the Coachella Music Festival a viable entry point for the NRL into the States?
Did they get everyone chanting Queenslander for any of their tracks? Because I think
not that I saw.
Oh.
I actually came across this story from a post by Rolling Stone magazine, who talked about how the Chats really had the crowd fired up, but didn't mention the historical context of Gordy's ragdoll tackle
Didn't need to.
Yeah.
Because that video is you universally understand what it is and what it means.
Yeah, true.
I think, interestingly, they were on a smaller stage of Coachella, but even still, more people watched that image of Gordy and Hodgson than watched on television the Vegas weekend.
Right.
Because, as you recall, I think it had almost minus numbers. So V'landys definitely needs to be aware of this. And needs to add the 1,000 or 2,000 or so fans that watch the Chats into the global NRL audience. And he could probably add in everybody at Coachella as well.
I think so,
onto
yeah.
the aggregate. Those aggregate figures that they like to tout at the beginning of each season.
Well, yeah. V'landys is looking for a massive broadcast deal at the moment. Maybe he just sort of needs to stump up some bands to play directly in front of some of the games.
Yeah.
So we can sort of have a band playing in the foreground, and then you could still be watching the game in the background.
Oh, well, I reckon you could instead of taking a game to Vegas, you take a game to Coachella. I mean, people are there for 3 or 4 days, so in sort of the afternoon before your big acts come on, your Billie Eilish and the like, is you just set up a couple of sets of sticks in the desert and get
that is a nice idea, actually.
There's Eels over there, whoever. And have your US game there. And it'd be great to have, Danica Mason or Jake Duke roaming around the festival doing a bit of reporting and interviewing the different artists about their thoughts. What does Sabrina Carpenter think about the new disruptor rule? Does Trent Reznor think the set restarts have gone too far this season?
Oh, it's a really good idea. Stuff. Get this down on some butcher's paper, mate. These are some great ideas.
I actually think we need to be formally documenting a lot of these things that we come up with, because eventually, even without us sending it on to the league, it will happen, and then we can claim it after the fact. Yeah.
Are we documenting it right now by recording a podcast? Some might.
No, that's that. But what we need to do is feed all of these podcasts into Claude AI, I think it is.
Yeah.
And then that will build us an app that optimizes
Rugby league.
I don't know what it does. Yeah, it optimizes rugby league. That's right. Yeah. No, it optimizes rugby league. Thank you. Yeah, it'll solve for rugby league.
Yeah. Well, that's great, because then if the Landers and the rest of the commission can just get that on their phones, and every week they can just ask the app, what do we fiddle with this week to improve the game, and it will actually have some positive impacts, perhaps, as opposed to let's make it so you have to stick both hands up when you're going for a ball or it's a penalty.
I don't want to hide in the coach's box. I'm here to fight, here to win. I'm on the sideline with the team, fighting hard as I can.
Before we go on, I need to come clean on something. I have been I've been infiltrating a number of Facebook fan groups with honest intention of trying to get some of our great social content out there. And if you have only come into this podcast as a listener, make sure you go to all of your favourite socials to check out some of our pieces that have been brought to life with visual clips and video footage of our faces. But often when you get into these groups, you have to answer a few questions. Sometimes they even make you pledge allegiance. So I've even had to write in why I love the Penrith Panthers.
What did you say?
I said it was a great club. Great people.
I assume the Titans fan group doesn't ask anything like that. Just happy for you to be on board.
That's a good point. But I did want to shout out to the St George Illawarra Dragons putting pride back in the Red V Facebook group. They're a wonderful group. A lot of these groups make it very difficult to post your content, even though we have, as I said, honest, good intentions to spread wonderful content, relevant content to fans, but most of them make it very difficult to get in there. But this group, wonderful group, there's over 10,000 members, and they've got some beautiful souls. They're very generous. I was added to the list, and admin Gail wrote, "Let's welcome our new members," and we were lined up there.
Oh, how about that?
On the list with the other 4 new members. And then as soon as we were put up there, Fred, Tony, Brett and Graham all said welcome. There was an outpouring of generosity, and it was just good to know that good old-fashioned Facebook courtesy is not dead. But thank you very much for having me, because I've fallen in love with these wonderful Dragons, especially considering all the hardship that they are going through currently to still sort of extend that sort of warmth. I thank you, one and all, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed James's delightful Hunt for Red V in October.
Did you post it?
Yes, I enjoyed it. Did they extend the same level of courtesy?
It's been doing great time, and they haven't taken it down.
Oh, okay. Wonderful
Any
stuff.
Any comments?
No comments
Fine.
yet.
I think it speaks for itself in many ways, doesn't it?
Don't worry, James. It'll blow up, mate. It'll absolutely blow up.
Yeah.
Oh, what absolute madness.
Well, it might be madness, but I've enjoyed it, and I hope the viewer has as well.
That's because you're mad.
What?
You're mad.
That's a lovely way to go to a break.
Now, the Perth Bears have unveiled their mascot's name.
Wow.
Very exciting until you hear it.
Okay.
It's Kodi. The name is short for Kodiak, a breed of a bear known for its strength and power. So, I mean, that's fine, but I have a few issues with this. Kodiak bears are native to an archipelago in southwest Alaska, which is pretty close to literally the furthest point on Earth from Perth, Western Australia. I know we don't have native bears in Australia. Obviously, the koala loophole doesn't count, but at least, try and give the name a local flavour.
Yeah.
Did anyone see Kodi the mascot doing the rounds at the doubleheader in Perth the other day?
I did. Yes, I did.
What colour was his fur, Dan?
It was black.
Yes. Kodi the mascot is a proud black bear. Kodiak bears, the breed that Kodi is named after, are a light brown colour and also known as the Alaskan brown bear.
Oh, gosh.
This is really basic stuff. The naturalists amongst the fan base must be absolutely up in arms. Even more concerning, Kodi as a first name derives from a Gaelic word meaning helpful. Not too bad, but it may also come from the Old English word codder, which means pillow. So not exactly setting themselves up for a reputation as hard defenders, are they?
It's not tough, no.
No. Anyway, this terrible name was chosen from 3,000 public entries. But I had a look at some of the suggestions on the NRL WA Facebook page, and they really overlooked some much better ones.
Okay.
So a lot of people suggested Barney the Bear, as that's the name of the North Sydney Bears mascot. So if this club is supposed to be a continuation of North's, back at the top level, surely they should have the same mascot name. So I don't know. Read into that what you will about the money and power involved in the Perth Bears setup. The most liked suggestion on the Facebook page, I love this, was to name him Percy, but you have to say it with a lisp. So Perthy, after the city of Perth. I really love that.
That's really nice.
Someone says, name him Mal after Mal Meninga. He's a hairy bugger.
It's always a danger, though, in attaching it to a real person, just in case there's a future episode of infamy.
Well, especially when that person is your coach and, no coach lasts at a club forever.
That's right.
Someone said Bernie the Bear and suggested a complimentary slogan, come spend the weekend with Bernie.
Maybe, if it is the weekend at Bernie's, then you could actually just have the mascot not with a human inside. Like, part of the fun could be that it's just a giant bear.
Yeah.
And fans are invited to come up and put him in sort of, unusual positions. And maybe also you could pop him into a golf buggy that is sort of controlled remotely, and he sort of tears around during celebrations and that kind of thing, which I think would actually be quite funny.
I think that's an excellent idea. Someone says, quote, Barley the Bear, in memory of the 88 Aussies killed in the Barley bombing. The Bears originated in Sydney. 20 of those killed that day were from Sydney also. Barleys are also Aussie's second home, especially from people from WA, end quote. I think we'll take that as a comment.
No comment. Go.
There's a suggestion of Dildo Baggins, which is also always hilarious.
It's got my vote.
And just some good Aussie names. Bundy, Bonga, Barry or Bruce.
Bonga.
So I think a lot of superior options.
Didn't they say in the article that numerous people suggested Kodi, but it was the winner was given the win because she gave the best artist statement?
Because it's named after a bear from the geographically furthest point from Perth that is a different colour to the
I'm guessing she glossed
Perth
over
mascot.
that part. But
mate, this does not bode well for running a successful club in Western Australia.
No, well, the cracks are already starting to show. I don't know if you've heard about the issues they've had with their general manager of football, David Sharp, who reportedly has had falling outs with staff members. Now, Sharp is a handpick from ex-teammate Mal Meninga. Although there hasn't been a formal statement made from the club, this has come out in a couple of papers, that there will be some sort of announcement and some replacement that will be happening before the team even hits the field. The only change that's happened recently is that Kodi's come onto the scene. So my suggestion is maybe that the falling out is with Kodi.
Yeah.
And that there could have been an issue with the name. There could have been an issue with, who's hot desking on a certain day. All those kinds of things that come into play within an office that is still looking to define itself.
I think David Sharp probably stormed into the office one morning and said, why the F has Kodi got human feet and tiny little human legs? Why haven't we invested in proper bear-sized feet for him?
Yeah.
Because while Simon was just reading those names out, which I agree with are all probably better than Kodi, I cannot stop looking at his tiny little legs and his tiny little feet running onto the ground.
It looks like Ricky Stewart's legs poking out of his little shorts in Perth the other day.
Yeah.
It was such a nice day. Ricky got the shorts out and, I think he's been skipping leg day for the past 30-odd years since he retired from...
I do think that that Perth have sort of cut numerous corners in the setup of their franchise. You sort of compare this to the Tassie Devils over in the AFL. Not to play the game, I know that Peter, if he's listening, might get a little bit frustrated at this, but their mascot, Rumman, which is, I think, a somewhat derogatory term for a Tasmanian local, a go-getter. But that's a really fabulous puppet mascot, which certainly doesn't have any dodgy little feet, and it's made by, I think, one of the local puppeteer crews in Tasmania.
And he eats footballs and poops them out again, doesn't he, Dan? I saw some footage.
It's quite a show. And if you have a look at the merchandise that the Perth Bears dropped on the same week, it's your really standard kind of offering. They're not pulling anything exciting. I think you can also tell that none of it has been produced. A lot of it is computer-generated visions or simulations of what these things are going to look like. Shirts, hoodies, stickers, shorts, that kind of thing. And nothing, no interesting cuts or designs or anything like that. They do have a reversible bucket hat, which caught my attention. But the funny thing is on the backside, they've got Cash Converters, who is one of their major sponsors, and it's bigger than the Perth Bears logo. It is actually a Cash Converters bucket hat that is with a small partnership with the Perth Bears. And also, very interesting point, no beanies. Very arrogant of Perth to not stock a cold weather hat.
Yes, good point.
Once again, it's sort of turning their back on the eastern states. So lift your game.
I'm a bit surprised they're not offering a hard hat, a Bears hard hat for all the FIFO workers to take back to site and wear out on the job.
Gosh, that's a great idea. And maybe a steel cap boot that could be club colours. And geez, while you're at it, flip one to Kodi because he's coming in well undersized at the moment.
He's the fastest man on the planet. He's the fastest man on the planet. He'd have got there, Rabbits. He'd have got there.
Okay, just taking care of a bit of sponsor business. G'day everyone, Kieran Foran here, former Kiwi international and interim coach of the Manly Sea Eagles. And if there's one thing I love more than scoring meat pies, it's eating meat pies. That's why I've just launched my own line called Foran's 20 Pies. It doesn't matter that I don't have any experience in commercial food production or running a business. 6 weeks ago, I'd never coached a game of footy in my life, and bloody look at me now. I'm a first-grade head coach with a 100% winning record. So a national food manufacturing and distribution business will be a piece of piss. And if you think the name Foran's 20 Pies sounds a lot like another popular pie brand, well then you need your head read. It's simple. My name's Foran, and I've got 20 different varieties of pies. There's no trademark infringement here, just delicious flavours like
squid and venison,
cheesy quokka,
curried ibis,
beer and bacon,
assorted anus,
chili cavoodle,
pickled whale,
and classic beef.
No artificial ingredients, just high-quality pastry, organs and gravy, piping hot at the edges and a little bit frozen in the centre. Just the sort of thing I enjoy on a sunny Sunday afternoon at Brookvale while I bask in the glory of my statistically proven coaching greatness. Foran's 20 Pies, the flavour that hits you like an HIA. And then there's a lot of guff about stockers and pricing, blah, 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 blah.
No other details he wanted to throw in there. All right. I know that we sort of dwell on this a little bit during our ad reads, but was there a sort of a commercial package that was negotiated between you and Kieran?
Thank you for asking, Daniel. Look, just to be upfront, there is no direct upfront payment in this deal, either as cash or as product. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. However,
that's good. That's refreshing.
Well, I have negotiated. I'm thinking the long term here. So I've negotiated a very lucrative co-branding arrangement with Kieran because he's going big with this. He wants to get these pies into every servo, every school canteen, every footy ground in Australia. And I'm very pleased that he's agreed that every single unit will feature the NRL Hellmouth logo.
Wow.
As well as a QR code that people can scan to visit our website and listen to the podcast.
This sounds incredible.
It's actually a very innovative approach. He's been working with some very talented food chemists, and they've developed a food-safe ink.
Yeah.
So our branding will actually be printed directly on the pastry top of each pie. Now, there is a bit of an issue where the ink burns off in temperatures over about 50 degrees, meaning that by the time a consumer actually receives the packet and opens it to eat our pie, our branding will no longer be visible. But I have spoken to the food scientist directly about a fix for this ink, and they told me, I believe he said it won't be possible under the current laws of chemistry as they exist in our universe. So
is that a no?
Small hiccups to work through, but a really exciting opportunity for the podcast and also for Kieran.
It's a miracle! Oh, yeah! What about that? Oh, it is a miracle! Unbridled joy on the sideline, and why not? That's not a try, that's a miracle!
All right. It's time for a historic look into the great history of the greatest game of all. This story is going to be about the NRL's first ever accidental HIA. And you might be thinking, what are we talking here, in the mid-teens, early turn of the millennium? But our story begins in round 10 of the 1987 New South Wales Rugby League season. And with a big man, named Mal Meninga chasing down a kickoff at the Raiders' then home ground at Seaford Oval. Is it Seaford?
Seaford, yeah.
Guys, what were you doing back in May 1987?
1987 was actually the year that I became rugby league conscious, if you like.
Wow.
I think I hadn't really given the game much thought before then, but then 87 was the year that the Raiders became the first non-Sydney team to make the finals, and then the grand final, which they probably lost to Manly. But that was sort of when the game entered my zeitgeist.
Well, you're absolutely right. But just to serve you a little bit of Raiders trivia, additional to those points, is can you tell me who was coaching the Green Machine that year?
Wayne Bennett.
Yeah, that was the year when I think Bennett was co-coach.
A young boy, Wayne Bennett, in the one and only season at the helm of the Raiders, 37 years old, but had already been coaching for 10 years at that time. This is 1987. How is he still alive? But anyway, Mal was chasing down a player in the in goal, and he collided with the left upright. And it's quite a sickening blow if you ever get the chance to have a look. He collects it pretty much face on. The sickening collision attracts the attention of a number of players from both teams that come over to his aid. And lucky for Mal, it turns out that the worst thing that happened to him is actually he breaks his arm. And in fact, he breaks it pretty good. He shatters both the radius and ulnar, and requires surgery and the addition of a metal plate, causing him to miss Queensland's Origin Series win and a Kangaroos Test loss to New Zealand. Now, ask Dr. Google, well-known overcautious clinician and pissant, and they'll tell you that an injury like this would require about 3 to 6 months of recovery. But this was the 80s, and Big Mal needed to be ready for the finals. So he returned after 10 weeks on the sidelines with what can only be described as a bloody great mattress strapped to his forearm.
Yes, I remember this.
Now, Simon, just a footnote for anyone considering rushing back from a shattered forearm, Mal would go on to break his arm 3 more times in the following 18 months, which sounds pretty bad, but of course that streak ended with a little-known win of the 89 grand final that you might remember. So I guess the jury's out on whether, these things were handled well or poorly. Anyway, back to our story and the main scene of the tale as Mal returns to the preliminary final to take on the Easts for a place in the Winfield Cup Grand Final. And now the mattress that's strapped to Mal's forearm is quite a sight. There's heavy wadding, lots of tape, basically doubles the size of his arm. And there is some suggestion that it was further reinforced within the brace. Here is a clip of how Mal was described on the day.
Mal Meninga there, looking solid, shall we say. He really does look just a little bit overweight, as to be expected.
And they sure knew how to call a spade a chubby shovel back in those days, but there was no beating around the bush. which you had to admire. But 10 minutes before halftime, Meninga receives a ball from Gary Belcher, and despite a wall of East's players standing between he and the line, Big Mel does what Big Mel does best and goes straight through them, and most notably straight over David Trewalla, who is steamrolled in one of the greatest one-on-one demolitions of all time. And just pop your ears on this, because the call is a thing of beauty.
Walters, Henjak, Meninga, beautifully to Belcher, back into Meninga. Meninga sledges for the line, and he scored a try. Now Meninga scored a try for Canberra. The crowd love it, the players love it. It's an astonishing try. It took a man of his bulk and strength to do it. See it again.
Well, last weekend, Eastern Suburbs trademark was their defence against Manly. Not so on this occasion. A short blindside. East had a ton of players. All you can see here is the tricolours all over the screen, but they found their way through. Trevor Gilmeister was out on the other side of the ruck, calling out for players to come out. He felt they were short on that side. Look at this. There's 6-7 Eastern Suburbs players in shot, but nobody back up on the inside here, and too easy for the big man Mal Meninga to crash back over.
Oh, as they said in those days, you come for the try, you stay for the instant replay music. What a call, and they certainly paint a picture of it being an impressive feat. Now, East prop David Trewalla, who serves as collateral for one of the greatest Raiders tries of all time, is instantly knocked unconscious by Big Mal's knee as he charges through. And he hits the ground limp. But as was the fashion in the day, he's promptly helped to his feet and manages to stumble admirably off the field. I'm not sure, are there any dangers in this sort of approach these days?
Not a doctor, Daniels, but I believe there may be some risks.
So, yeah. But here's how the commentators called it.
And I reckon that Trewalla will wake up with the greatest headache. He's still being treated there. Meninga took him on. Trewalla, to his credit, stood his ground and tried to tackle the big fella, and he's only just now recovered. And he is in Disneyland at the moment. He was knocked yards back out of the way there by a giant of a man coming hard and strong.
Clearly from a time before sexual innuendo had been invented. In an interview with Trewalla years later, I think it's from 2019, David put what I think is a very generous spin on things.
When you're an inch from the line, and it was one of his knees hit me under the chin, and I put my head in the wrong way. But anyway, it was quite funny.
People get their kicks all sorts of ways, don't they? Back in the sheds, Trewalla was hooked up on gas, and I'm guessing a series of smelling salts and maybe a tourniquet or leeches, as was as common in the day. And he was, of course, preparing to shake off the concussion, ready to get back out there for the second half. That's all until the Raiders timekeeper came in and contested that Trewalla needed to have returned to the field for at least the last 15 seconds of play in the first half in order to then be able to return to the field for the second.
Is that right? That's the rule back then.
But strangely enough, Trewalla is cruelly denied the opportunity to return to play and do further lasting damage to his brain. And the first ever technical accidental Grade 1 HIA is thus completed.
Fantastic. What a great little nugget of history.
There you go. And I think it's fair to say it's all been downhill since then.
Yeah.
It is insane that he was allowed to wear that gauntlet on his forearm.
It was insane. I remember he was constantly fending people off and bashing people with it. It was a massive advantage.
Yeah.
It
was nuts.
Yeah.
And it's testament to the quality of the player and the man, because if he wasn't who he was, they wouldn't let him do it. But imagine if King Wally had that thing on his arm.
Yeah.
Crikey. Borska.
The other thing that players often wore back then that you haven't seen in many years was shoulder pads. You look at the kind of the 80s and early 90s games, and like Laurie Daly, when he first started, he was wearing massive, I don't know, I guess it's made of plastic or some sort of reinforced fibre, massive shoulder pads, which would be a great asset, you would think, for breaking the line. I assume it's not legal to do that anymore, because otherwise, get into it.
It's called This Week in Hell. It's called This Week in Hell. It's called This Week in Hell.
First up this week in hell, a warning to listeners who might have been finding themselves stuck in vehicles over the last couple of weeks and uncontrollably ranting about how bad their team's playing. So Storm, Eels, Dragons, potentially the Raiders, apart from last week, a couple of others. if you were to go onto our TikTok or Instagram page, you'll see some examples of some of the rant-based medical incidents that I've had throughout the week. What you see is only one part of it. So you see a man screaming in pain, but what you don't see are the hidden effects of ranting, which includes headache, dry mouth, inability to sleep, constant edginess, and inability to find any sort of joy. So, if you are getting into the rant lifestyle, which I do encourage because it is in some ways freeing. It's fun, it's cool, it's sexy, people like it, great for views. There is obviously the hidden side of it. So just be careful about that this week as you rant.
Good point. Should we have put like one of those little disclaimers at the end of the socials?
Have a person close by that can extract you from the car. That was the problem I had when you watched the video. There was no one to get me out.
No support.
I was unsupported.
Yeah.
You're just stuck in it ranting. Anyway, there are some rugby league games this week. Biggest one on this podcast is the 15th place team versus the 13th.
Yeah, I think the winner of this might be outright 13th at the end of the weekend. So
that's good.
Big stuff.
And that is, of course, the Canberra Raiders in GIO Stadium, if it's still standing, versus Melbourne Storm, formerly the benchmark of the competition for the last decade. Striving to get out of the spoon zone.
I dare say that the headline of the winner will be handily eclipsed by the outrage or the huge story of the loser that is now going 2-5.
2-5, yeah.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Yes, there's not a lot of positives to come out of a game like that.
No, I think
no, there's not.
Bellamy and Stick might be arguing over who's buying the drinks after that one because none of them can really claim to be the winner.
I think, if it's a terrible game and it might be a low-quality game, they will be out the back of GIO Stadium throwing Great Northern bottles against a brick wall.
Yeah, that's right.
And just screaming at the moon.
Well, I'd love to see, actually, if Ricky ends up in his car doing a rant against the ACT government for not investing in a new stadium. That's kind of, well, I mean, he's got a lot of bugbears, but that's the one he keeps coming back to.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Good. We got the, also Friday night, big game up in Darwin, actually. Now, Darwin, different temperature, weather, humidity, heat up there, I suppose. So that's Dolphins versus Panthers. I think the weather in Darwin might be a bit of an equaliser in that game, so that's important to watch out for.
Every now and then you sort of think about how the mascots will face off against one another, and for some reason, since the Dolphins started, that's always one that's really terrified me, the idea of like a dolphin and a panther locking in battle. Like whether it's on land or sea, it's a really disgusting kind of, brutal thrashing of torsos. Anyone? You guys don't see that? You never see that?
Well, I just skip over it because I don't see how a dolphin and panther would ever come to fight because, dolphins don't leave the water and panthers don't leave the jungle. I think they're a jungle-based cat, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Not much about panthers.
There's a magic of rugby league, though. It's a theatre of the mind.
Tell you what, though, Kodi the bear, early season in Perth, the human inside the bear suit,
that's right,
is going to be incredibly hot.
That's right. Maybe they should have adopted the Kodiak brown bear,
that's exactly
light of
what
fur.
I thought.
Yeah.
Should have gone for scientific accuracy.
No, that's why they should have gone weekend at Bernie's, because then they wouldn't have had to actually risk any human being in there. It's already dead.
Oh, well, maybe.
Theoretically.
Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe if the person inside the suit does pass out from dehydration, then, they can weekend at Bernie's the bear around with the person still inside, albeit unresponsive.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
Saturday afternoon in Australia, Warriors Titans. Always love it when you have a Warrior versus a Titan, one of those matchups, Dan. I think that even Simon, our friend who lacks the imagination of imagining a dolphin on land fighting a panther, will be able to get his head around.
Rationalist.
And he'll be able to envision what that would look like. Both teams came off massive wins last week, based solely on last week's matches. the form teams of the competition.
Yeah, that's right.
So that should be a good one.
But critically, not the previous week. So do not base it on the
not
week
the previous
prior.
week.
Yeah.
Saturday, a couple of goodies. Rabbitohs Dragons, always interesting to see a team that is under pressure like the Dragons. Obviously, we're very supportive of them. We've been putting a lot of time and effort into supportive content for the Dragons. Interesting to see how Flano and crew go. Saturday, and then Saturday night, big game, West Tigers, currently coming second. The form team of the comp, based on games sequentially won. Against the Broncos, injury-ravaged defending champions. That'll be a good one again in Campbelltown.
Absolutely.
Sunday, Roosters Knights, whatevs. But Eels Bulldogs, talking about the 80s a bit today, the two giants of the early 80s in the NSWRL. Eels, Bulldogs. Let's see what happens there. Panthers, again, another team that is down on their luck. Will they catch the Bulldogs' tail? Or will they get a gobful of their own? Find out. Sunday, 4 p.m.
It's just another example of one of these games that, had you seen those two teams 1 week prior, you would have thought that this result was going to be completely different. But, here we are, and it looks like the Bulldogs will have a comfortable win over the Eels, but it wasn't so much the same way.
Or the Eels will smash the Bulldogs.
Yeah,
It'll
I
be
think
one or the other.
What a world we live in.
Right, that is hell this week.
Time to close up the Hellmouth for another week. Thanks, as always, for joining us. If you like this episode, please do your bit for the game you love and share it with your league-loving mates. And if you're a St George Illawarra Dragons fans or a fan of James's happiness, please get in our socials and give a like to the Hunt for Red V in October. Now to send us off towards the weekend, here's James's final thought.
Sometimes it's cool to buy 4 or 5 boxes of Cocoa Pops and put them in your cupboard and eat them in your bedroom between doing other things. But sometimes it's cool to follow the rules. Sometimes it's cool to keep an even 10 metres. Sometimes it's cool not to hold down in the ruck. Simply roll away and stand up. Sometimes it's cool to welcome people into your Facebook group, even if they have a strange name like NRL Hellmouth, and post a impenetrable video. Sometimes those things are cool, but what is always cool is rugby league. Ave Alex Johnston, Ave Kodi the Fraud Bear. Have a great weekend.
Stop it, it's starting to hurt.
James, he created a beautiful hunt for Big V in October.
Hunt for the Red V in October.
He created a great hunt for the Red V in October.
It's not Hunt for Thee. It is Hunt for Red V in October. This is probably why it didn't work.
Hunt for Red V in October. Am I right?
Of course you're right. Yes.
James,
the viral sensation. Come on, what have you got to say?
Still very sensitive about this. Look, we'll cut this.